This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Sean Preston.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Good Neighbor Podcast. Today, we have another neighbor on with us, and that is Richard Bruton of Bruton Investment Group at National Bank Financial Wealth Management. What's going on?
Well, thank you, Sean, for the opportunity to introduce my team. As you mentioned, Bruton Investment Group at National Bank Financial. I am Richard Bruton. I'm a senior investment and wealth management advisor. I started the investment wealth management advisory business some 26 years ago after a successful career in financial management as chief financial officer of a Canadian bank, a pension fund, and in manufacturing. So my team at National helps private and business clients meet their lifetime goals and objectives for themselves, their families, their businesses. In other words, we help our clients through the developing and putting into practice financial plans, tax-effective investment strategies to help them essentially save towards retirement, save to buy homes and other properties, save to educate their children, save to buy businesses of their own, or essentially, and to meet other lifetime goals and objectives. We also help them with business succession planning and all those aspects associated with estate planning, like businesses, wills, powers of attorney, tax-effective multi-generational transfer of family wealth, and essentially prepare themselves and their families to cope with financially lifetime crises that happen once in a while. And that's, in a nutshell, what we do.
I was going to say the financial industry is quite vast. I mean, we've had lots of conversations with financial advisors and people in wealth management. There's a lot that goes into it. And so I'd like to try to crack down a little bit to give our listeners a little bit more of maybe some behind the scenes and maybe something more in depth. Because it's so vast. Everything that you just said, if I'm listening to the show, I'm saying, okay, where do I start? So for somebody who's listening to the show, maybe let's answer that question. How would you go about? I mean, everybody's got different needs, but I want to try to simplify it as much as possible because that was a mouthful.
I'm sure. Well, we meet people and advance to a great extent, obviously on an organized basis, but at their pace to make sure that we get to know them. Many folks are getting quite concerned about, is their money going to be sufficient to retire on? And others are much younger. Obviously, they have great dreams for the future. So we meet with people individually, get to know them personally. We have to we have to trust who we're dealing with. They have to trust us as well. So it's a relationship based on trust. It's a relationship that lasts many generations. In fact, we have clients that are with us for 4 generations already, right?
Wow.
We go about the process through the interview. We determine what they want to achieve in life and see what they have available and how much they earn, how much they may inherit, how much, all of those things put together to determine how we can help them. We develop a financial plan and an investment policy strategy, and then we help them implement that, right? And walk through them and meet with them on a regular basis. Most clients, we will have quite full meetings, at least 3 times to 4 times a year, in which we revise everything to make sure that they're keeping to their plan. And hopefully we get to the point in which their goals are reached, the education of their kids or their retirement or the sale of their business. If they're looking for a business succession or their wills are put in place, we make sure that they will have wills, powers of attorney in place and everything like that. And we're very focused on helping them save taxes in the process, because if things are not properly planned, a lot of money gets lost to the family through taxes, and it's quite unnecessarily, right?
100%. I learned a lot about some of that stuff, the tax saving stuff, and working with my financial advisor. It it's stuff that not a lot of people are educated on, and there's a lot of money that you can save from simply adding a couple of processes, doing a couple of things here or there. It's pretty cool. Well, thank you for that. That definitely answered the question I was looking for at helping identify, kind of the process, how that works. I think we were able to connect a little bit more with people on that. Do you have a kind of a specialty? Obviously, there's lots of different things that you do. Do you focus on one thing, or do you like to? Like, maybe that's a better question. Is there a particular area that you kind of maybe enjoy a little bit more?
Well, I would suggest probably this is a role that I always wanted to come into, right? So, um, and ever since I was a kid, because my father used to give me shares as gifts. And I used to go and collect my dividends, which were very little, but nevertheless, they made me feel that there was something there, and I wanted to know what it was all about, owning companies and all that type of thing, and seeing my shares go and go up, and I found it all so very exciting. And life takes you in different directions, and in many ways, I'm very grateful. So I worked very much. I started my career as an auditor, aiming to become a chartered accountant. I then was an accountant of some major corporations and everything. And so when the opportunity came and to move into this industry, I came into an industry which I am passionate about, and it allows me to work with people. And I think it boils down to what a specialty. Well, as professionals, we are specialized in what we do. We obviously have the training, and do we enjoy it? Yes, I love it. And probably the part I enjoy the most is actually the relationship with the folks that I've worked with for, as I say, in some cases, 4 generations, and they've referred friends. They have referred family members, and that for me is probably the most valuable thing, is when people respect and trust you enough that they're prepared to. It's a recognition, which I think is amazing, and that gives a lot of personal satisfaction when that happens.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, trust, especially in today's day and age, for many businesses, also in the past, but especially in today's day and age, in the digital age, the way everything is so busy, and you can go down any rabbit hole on the internet to find misleading information or misinformation. It's hard to determine what's accurate information. And so trust is a really big factor in what makes people decide to buy and what makes people decide to stay. So it's nice to see that you've experienced and seen a lot, have a lot of that with your own clients. Are there any like misnomers or misconceptions in your line of work?
Well, I find yes, and it's when children are fortunate enough to have parents that start introducing these concepts to the kids from an early stage, I think kids grow up with that understanding that there's more out there than just going to the bank and putting your money in the bank, right? And if you want to save for something, they start understanding the idea of ownership, of having a stake in things. Many kids are brought up with absolute ignorance of all of this, right? And people grow up, and then they get working in their own fields of business, and they sadly get to a point in life in which they should be speaking to people like us. Probably once they hit their 20s or something and they start saving seriously, they should really come and see us. And many are almost feel that this is we're here just to look after very wealthy people, and it's not the case. We basically have entire families, and some family members have 50,000 with us, while as others might have 1 million and much more. But generally speaking, we can take on clients from about 250,000 upward. Prior to that, people need to obviously go and speak to their bank advisory team at the bank level, because the level that we look after people at is is obviously more in depth and more sophisticated, and so we have to make sure that clients have a certain amount of money so that we can really help them. Otherwise, the most tax efficient solution for them, and probably the least costly one, is to actually just go to the bank or to a discount brokerage situation where they. But I would suggest discount brokerage is dangerous because you don't necessarily, unless you really know what you're doing, you can lose a lot of money. And so it's better to just take advice from people who specialize in the field, right?
Right. 100%. I can totally relate to that. I mean, there's got to be a subset of funds there in order to get, an adequate um,
A reasonable return, right? That's
reason.
it.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. A reasonable amount of return. If not this, you're not going to get over the hump or might not be able to get to your goals. But saving
Yeah,
aggressively, like you mentioned, that's definitely a practice. It's something they've been needing to teach in schools for a super long time.
absolutely.
It's crazy to me that they still don't. It's one of the most important skills, considering the world's run on money,
Yes.
that you think we'd have this dialed in, and we don't.
And the general wealth management side of things, obviously, we don't only just advise people on investments, we advise on their holistic wealth management side. And that's so very important. I mean, for example, a person who buys whose parents bought a cottage like 60 years ago for $10,000. Now that cottage is worth $1 million, and they feel, oh, I'm so rich. No, that cottage is exactly the same cottage as was $10,000 ago, 60 years ago. Haven't become any wealthier. You still have the same cottage. So people don't, they see themselves having become wealthy just because the cottage has gone up, but it's paper money. It's not the cottage is the real thing. So when people are taxed afterwards on the cottage because it's second property, and the capital gains tax come along or something like that, it wipes away, especially in a situation like that, could wipe away almost half the value of the cottage. So if the person wants to replace that $1 million cottage by another $1 million cottage, no, they will not have the money to do it because they've had to pay such a lump sum of money into taxes. And these are things that we try and educate people on, to be very careful, because here in Canada, the greatest aspiration people seem to have is own a cottage, right? It's probably better to just go out there and rent it whenever you need it, right?
Yeah, I've got some aspirations to want to buy a piece of land up north and then put a camper on it, trailer, and then do like a 5-year build plan, but have a spot to be able to go up. Julie's parents, they have a camper as well. They go camping like almost every weekend in the
Yes,
summertime, and my parents just bought a little trailer as well. We have
I have
family.
one.
Oh, you okay? There you go. Nice. So yeah, and it just
That's
makes it a
my
little bit
mobile
easier.
cottage. I have to go everywhere.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's nice to be able to go to different spots as well. Um, and the place we're looking at, it's not too far, about 2.5 hours north of here, and be able to have all of our friends come. They can pitch a tent, they can bring a trailer, and then just eventually over the course of time, just slowly start to, build what we want, how we want it, and kind of have our own little sliver of paradise type of thing. So
Oh yes, it's nice, especially if you have a lakefront property or something like that. Then it just takes it to another level, right? You and some horses,
very
some
nice.
nice things like that. These are dreams I think that all of us have, including myself. And so far, I have my nice little camp, and we do travel quite a bit. We've got to know, we get That's how you get to know Canada and the United States, is by taking nice holidays, maybe 3 weeks or so, and travel around. We love doing that, just and kayaking and cycling and just the most down to earth stuff, right?
Well, I'll tell you, this is the first show. Jeff and I have produced over 250 shows so far this year. And it's the first time we've gone this deep in a conversation where you've seemingly answered the question without me asking it right before I was about to ask the question. And that was my next question is, hey, what do you like to do for fun? And we're already talking about it. I had to say something. I was completely amazed that we just kept rolling into the precise questions as we were just
Yeah,
doing the show.
yeah, I like reading a lot, so that's obviously something which I think goes with being in this business, you have to read a lot, but I like to read a lot. I like history, understanding history, because I find it helps me. It helps me with my business. It helps me with some degree of foresight, and vision, and in how to deal with situations. I like obviously the study of economics, which is obviously so very important for our business.
Yeah.
Like that, you can almost read between the lines when it comes to dealing with what comes out in the news, and sort of plan not only my life but the life of my clients around what's happening politically and economically in the country, right? So these reading is very, very important. I enjoy it. I obviously enjoy casual reading too. My wife and I would love to go sometimes to a theater or to a show or something like that. We love to. We love opera. You might
Oh
think it's
yeah,
crazy,
nice.
and so everyone here at home paints as well. We all paint. We're just a family of artists. We don't sell anything. So those are hobbies we have. I compose classical music as well, and I've entered into a number of competitions since I was a little kid, and won a few first prizes for my competitions, well,
Nice.
compositions, and so you know, uh, that's life, right? And that's what makes life special, and we're very grateful that it's been possible, man.
Well, I wanted to ask you about history. I enjoy a bunch of different time periods in history, um, the Roman era, Spartans, Vikings, all stuff. I've been World War II, super fascinated. I know a lot about World War II, and anytime there's a show or a piece of literature, I can get my hands on. I'm not the biggest reader in the world, but if it is something I'm really interested in, I will sink my teeth into it. I just find those eras like super interesting, and it tells you a lot. Um, it's nice to go off the past and know what happened in the past as we kind of look towards the future. Like you were saying, it can help in business, can help with a lot of things. You got a couple of eras that in history that you're a little more fascinated with.
I think you watch the same programs on YouTube and the history channels as I do. Actually, there's a great collection of videos on YouTube, historical videos of all types of, as well as the great movies on Netflix and things of the Vikings, etc. But I like history in general because, particularly our look, I do come from a European background, right, which is a mix of just about every nationality in Europe. But and as such, I find it very, very interesting to see how the whole historical process since the time of the Greeks, the great civilizations, and even before that, right, and the impact that our world had on the rest of the world, and vice versa, how the rest of the world had an impact on our world, right? And so I find it very, very interesting, and also helps understand how cultures have related to each other over long periods of time, and how people have tried to basically come closer in many respects, and that is probably a formula for success going forward. But it's very, very interesting. Yes, I do enjoy the study of history because of all of that. And unfortunately, things are not as quick as we'd like to see them happen. Uh, but history has its way of working itself. We have to look positively into the future, right?
Yeah, totally. Especially with everything going on, try to keep that positivity as much as possible. But if we could all
Oh,
just work in
absolutely.
unison, it'd be a little bit of a better place.
There's a lot to look forward to, I would suggest. And I mean, if you can imagine how things must have been in one and a half centuries ago for people, they probably had no their concerns about the future must have been enormous, right? And then world wars happened one after the other, and major changes in countries that became independent, and all those things brought so much uncertainty into families and people's lives and everything like that. And I would suggest that at this point in time, probably we don't have anything comparable in terms of concerns, and so we have so much to look forward to. And the only thing is to learn how to navigate it, right? And not only navigate it as in one's personal capacity, but we also have to think about the technological advancements which are happening. Obviously, artificial intelligence. We have to think about one's own, where our countries are positioned, and hopefully be able to position our portfolios and our businesses to survive all these changes that are coming. We have to essentially be visionaries in many respects. And people that are in business, I found that they're very creative, and that type of thing inspires me because I like to see that in people. The only thing is they cannot just focus on what they're doing. What made them successful in the past may not make them successful going forward, right? They have to adapt to the changes, like we have to adapt as we go along. Adapt or die, unfortunately, right?
Very well said. So in life, we pick a path, we walk that path. It's the path of life. And as we go through over time, life decides to get in the way. It'll throw life challenges at us, it'll throw hardships. Sometimes those fall in forms of tragedies. Others experience a little bit more of this, some a little bit less. But I've always been fascinated at human beings' ability to be able to overcome these challenges, the mindset, seeing the glass half full, finding silver linings, because we have to move forward. We don't have another option. And like you said, evolve, adapt, and try to pull those silver linings forward, and keeping a positive mindset. Have you ever experienced a life challenge, a hardship in your life that you overcame? Maybe you overcame it, maybe made you stronger, maybe made you better, maybe you pulled some silver linings from it.
Some major challenges. I essentially had to leave my parents' home when I was 15 years of age, right? And because of war, and uh, and I could hardly depend on my parents for support after that, right? And so that was a major challenge. But I got myself educated. I finished high school. I went on to university. I studied at night, right? I didn't have the privilege to go to full-time university study, and I built myself a great career. In fact, I started in quite senior positions from the age of 22, precisely because my employers recognized that, right? And and the fact that I'd actually been working and studying along the way, that kind of gave them, they recognized the effort I was putting into it, because waking up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I mean, these are big challenges, right?
Right.
And having little money to survive and still persevere with my studies. So immigration also was an issue, which was also very challenging. Coming to Canada 31 years ago was a big change, because I've come from a position where I've been the CFO of a major pension fund, and come to Canada, and yes, my education was recognized as having the equivalent of a master's degree, because I got a job. As an analyst in equity research, and that type of thing, or an associate analyst, and those jobs required an MBA from Harvard or Western. I didn't have that, obviously, but nevertheless, my career built to that. So these are challenges one overcomes, and I think if you have to look at people, and you want to say choose people to bring into your business and make your business grow, you have to bring people that basically have had challenges to overcome in life. Because when they have challenges and they've done their best to overcome, you can look at them and seeing these are positive people. These are people going to not only help themselves, but also going to help the business grow. Obviously, business challenges, yes. I mean, especially a lot of the major corporations I worked for, they present also major challenges, because you walk into a job and you're young and your staff is like in their 50s and 60s, and
I
you
know
are
that feeling.
25, 28 years old, and you are their boss. You have to be the boss, right? And you have to really learn what they're doing, and then impart with your knowledge to them, and hopefully they will accept it. And so you have to know how to manage those situations. Those are big challenges, make no mistake.
I can totally relate to that. I became a young leader at 28. And by the height of it, in my 30s, I had a staff of 6 account managers, 42 event management staff, and then a performance trainer to manage the 42 because I couldn't do it anymore. That became a little bit too much. Learned a lot from that, how to be a leader, what not to say, how to navigate people, their gossip, what they think, learn how to be a democratic leader, all kinds of different things. And then COVID killed it. 9 years, nothing to show, and hit financial rock bottom, mental rock bottom, and having to start from scratch all over again. So I can certainly relate to a few things that you're saying there from that perspective.
Yeah, that's the thing. When I came to Canada, I really went to that rock bottom thing because when you're young, and I went for the first change when I left, a big challenge when I left my parents' home. You are young, and you kind of feel that, wow, I'm building from this point on, and it's great. But when you have a peak in your career, and suddenly you come to a new country, and yes, they give you the recognition, but then they say, okay, but you're going to receive 10% of the pay that you were getting before.
That's crazy.
And you have family to support, you have children to support, and that's why many people who come to Canada, who happen to be professionals like myself, leave Canada. They come here, they stay here, they see that Canada is difficult to break into, and they go. They go down to the States, or they go back to the countries they came from, or they go to simply other countries. And because I think we put up too many barriers when people come in, especially well-educated people, and it does affect people's lives enormously, as it did affect my life and the life of my family, right? But I was determined to stay on in Canada because I wanted a future for my children. Today, my children are practically all of them in good positions, except for my little one. She's only 16, but so there's a lot to go there, right? But she's doing very well as well. But these are
What is she
challenges.
looking to do, your 16-year-old?
Sorry?
Your 16-year-old, does she have some pretty strong interests in kind of where she maybe thinks she wants to go? I ask because I have a 17-year-old. So
Yeah, all 3 kids were fall into that category of being absolute geniuses, which I'm amazed. I don't know where they got that from. Must have been from some
maybe
ancestor.
you.
What? Yeah, I doubt it. But they're at that level at school, so they basically are very top. So everything is 90% plus, and they in special classes that cater for them, right? And which is good because the atmosphere in those classes tends to be much more focused on studying, and they're kids that basically really want to go somewhere. No, she is. And they've all enjoyed mathematics and science. I mean, these are subjects which are essential if you want a good career going forward in many fields, right? And that's very important. So my wife is a mathematician, so obviously the brains came from that.
There you go.
But my daughter, she wants to go into architecture, but she loves art. I mean, she's always painting stuff and doing all kinds of stuff. She gets a cork and she does something with it. She gets a cup and she paints it. So everything is around this house. If you can't walk into a room, it's like a art gallery that looks it's kind of intimidating, right? And I have to tell her, you have to put all of these things into a box and into the basement because you can't move inside this room. And every time I go there, there's more stuff.
That's so funny. I have to ask you, that ancient typewriter behind you, is there a story behind that?
Well, the story is that when I was a kid, um, one of the things I wanted to do was keep in touch with family and friends because I left home, right? And and so I got myself a little typewriter, and I used to write to everybody because people were complaining I couldn't read my handwriting so well, right? And so I got myself a typewriter, and my father used to also own a business that was into supply of office equipment. So since I was a kid, I used to go and sit in the office and play with typewriters and calculators. The mechanical sound of it all was absolutely fascinating, and I admire the immense engineering that goes into making something like that. Right? If you dismantle one of those these machines, it's highly complex, and to manufacture something like that is very, very difficult. Some people have some incredible skills to do that. Right? And I knew a fellow that was actually a typewriter mechanic and also the mechanic of all those comptometers that were also mechanical, right? Prior to computers. And he used to disassemble this whole thing, clean every single part with tons of parts spread across a big table. And then he would reassemble everything and it all worked beautifully, right?
Wow.
Life is so easy now by comparison.
Yeah, it's fascinating how the mind
A
works.
typewriter like that, I would suggest in those times is probably more expensive than a laptop today.
Yeah, amazing.
So I picked up that typewriter at maybe some antique show or something. You can always pick them up, take a walk through an antiquities shop, and you will find a lot of interesting stuff. Right?
Yeah, it's always fascinating going through there. The girls love doing that. My two girls, I enjoy it as well too. It's kind of like walking into a time machine. It's pretty cool to see all that stuff.
I'm afraid of going into an antique shop with my wife and daughter because they just don't stop.
Yeah, mine are the same. So
As I'm afraid of walking into a nursery, right? Because I think our garden is super overcrowded. I just manage the lawn, and that's enough of a job, right? But but the garden looks amazing. It looks amazing. I like walking through the garden because I've never seen such beautiful flowers in my life. I think they really do a great job. My wife is just totally passionate about the garden, right?
that's a passion that I share. My mom's been a green thumb for a long time. My two younger sisters are big into plants and all that kind of stuff. So I grew up around that. And as I started maturing into my 30s and then COVID hit, I found myself hand plucking dandelions on my front lawn. It's kind of where I started. And then that turned into my mom saying, "Hey, you got all this time. You should power wash your fence." So then I did that. And then it was like, okay, well, what's the next project now? It's like everybody was doing projects at that
Yes.
time. And I built two garden boxes. Now I have five. I grow almost everything. I've got not enough room. I have to now redesign. I only have a little tiny backyard. I'm on a corner lot. I'm
Yes.
removing a big bush and I'm going to build raised garden beds, a very long one in a big L shape. So I'll probably
Yes.
double the amount of space and hopefully that'll allow me to take the 6 or 7 pots that I have on my deck along with everything else that's in the gardens and be able to give it a better
That's a big
chance.
job.
Yeah,
That's a big, big job.
yeah, it is. But when you, it's a lot of work. But when you taste the food and you like, I have two also stand-up boxes I bought from Costco. One of them is just all different kinds of leaf lettuce, and then one is a kale box. So I got about 6 or 7 kale plants that are growing in there. We make our smoothies in the morning and put it in, and we've been really eating a lot of it lately. So I had to tell Julie, hey, we need to buy some from the grocery store this week because if we keep going, we're just going to eat it all.
Yeah.
But the difference between what you get at the store, it's harder. It's not
Crispier, right?
it's
You call it
fresh.
crispier.
Yeah, I never felt kale so soft. You normally think when you buy it's hard, right? It's prickly almost. The stuff that comes out of my garden, it's super soft and it's super fresh, and I wouldn't want to have it any other way.
Yeah, my wife also keeps a bit of a vegetable garden, and we have some fruit trees like apple trees and cherry trees. She makes a lot of jams
Nice.
and that type of thing. So she keeps herself busy with a lot of things. So,
Yeah,
which
my
is good.
mom's into all of that stuff. Pickling stuff, all that old school stuff she learned from her mom. Back on the farm, they used to do that with everything, grow it, and then you pickle it. So we got to enjoy doing a lot of that. We go every 2 years. We go up into the Simcoe County Forest and we harvest wild leeks. and then we pickle
Oh,
those, and those are good for charcuterie board. They're good in a Caesar. They're good on their own. Little things like this, definitely a skill that Julie enjoys that as well. So we're gonna keep that tradition going. It's a wonderful skill.
my both my wife and myself, we come from farming families, right? And and all four grandparents, right? It's not just one of them. So it and that's for multiple generations. So it's I think that in itself, not being a family that's just raised in the cities, there's a certain way of life that seems to be and approach to life, and maybe an appreciation for nature that is probably coming across in people like yourself, in which you obviously enjoy the countryside, and you can see that what you're doing as a hobby because that the green fingers are there naturally, right?
Yeah.
I just like mowing the lawn and watching everything grow. I'm not very good at planting stuff, right?
Yeah,
But
I didn't have the time for
but
the
in
grass.
terms of sports and stuff like that, one of the things I've done for many years was lawn bowling and curling as well. So lawn bowling in the summer, curling in the winter, and that's that trophy there at the back. I think it's on that side, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That, it comes from as on the lawn bowling side.
nice. Big into anything competitive, whether that's on a rink, on a front lawn, on a field, on a court. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter whether it's a card game, a board game, a lawn game. Lawn bowling super fun. Anytime anybody wants to say, "Hey, do you want to go out and pickleball?" Whatever the case is, I have a hard
Yeah.
time saying no to that.
So
So
you're doing pickleball, and I play tennis mostly because my family plays tennis, right? So it's the only way I can really spend time with them. But I got them into curling and lawn bowling too, so and
very
kayaking and
nice.
cycling. So it's if you enjoy sports, I think it just not only brings the family together more, but it also keeps you healthier, right? And that's exactly what you're trying to do is keep the blood circulating, keep
100%.
yourself oxygenated.
Totally. What's one thing that you wish our listeners knew about your business?
Well, that we are good listeners, and we we look forward to helping them, and uh, they must know that they can trust us to look after put them first, because it's all about people, right? It's putting them first.
And you've certainly been doing it for a long time. Well, that was a phenomenal conversation. I'm sure there are definitely some people who are interested and maybe wanting to learn a little bit more, maybe reaching out to you on a personal level. For
Sure,
those who are
thank you.
interested, what would be one of the best ways that they can go ahead and reach you?
Well, the best thing is just call me straight and dial me at 416-869-8098, and that's it. And set up a time to meet with me, and I'll either meet with them at their homes or places of business, or they can come and meet with me at the office. And any we have offices everywhere, right? So whether they want to meet with me in Toronto or in Barrie or Innisfil or Sudbury, or I have clients all over, right? So I'm used to meeting with people in their places of business or wherever we have offices as well.
And if they maybe wanted to search and peruse online as well, what would be a spot for them to go ahead and do that?
They can go to, well, and we're on LinkedIn, on Facebook. We're also on Twitter. Probably the best place to go is our website, which is www.brutoninvestmentgroup.ca. Sometimes if there's a bit of a problem getting into the .ca one, maybe try the .com, brutoninvestmentgroup.com. And just to get a general knowledge, a general read up on that, I think we have to improve on websites nowadays because I think no one likes to go into a website and have to read too much, right?
Yeah,
So we're trying to modernize that a little bit within the constraints of working for a big organization like National Bank Financial, and we might want to get little videos put in there and everything, that might answer the questions people may have, quick questions. Probably make it much more interactive if possible.
Yeah,
So,
you and I were both at that Ghost Marketing and checking that place out. That was really cool.
thank you.
Amazing conversation. Thank you very much for coming on and telling your story. Really appreciate you having on the show.
Thank you, Sean. Most appreciated. You're doing a great job for the neighborhood and the community, and hopefully one day you'll be greatly rewarded for it.
Awesome stuff. Thanks again, Richard.
Take care then. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast Midhurst. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpmidhurst.com. That's gnpmidhurst.com or call 705-413-3775.